Hello, the Sonic City Council is now in session. Thank you so much for joining us at this council meeting. My name is Jesse Davidson, and to my left, I have my compatriot in cosmic creativity, Davey Sipes.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Davey.
Yeah, what's up there, humanoids? Thanks for joining us again on this epic journey through art, music, and creativity from the artist's perspective. Yeah. And there you are again, and I'm looking you in the eyes, and I see you have a gavel.
Because we got to call this meeting to order.
How the hell do we do that? I'm scared.
That's how you do that.
Woo!
So,
Stuck the landing.
stuck the landing on the gavel.
We're back.
And we're back.
Got to throw in a we're back, or we're not really back.
No, we got to do that. Well, we are back now, yeah.
We are back.
Yeah.
We're back, and it's good to be back in black.
It is.
And silver and queen plus Adam Lambert.
Yeah, Queen plus Adam Lambert, which was a hot topic of discussion.
It's funny that I wore a fucking bow tie, but your T-shirt was like the hot slam of the fucking show.
I didn't call you out on it once because I'm such a gentleman.
Yeah.
I respect the bow tie.
Yeah, we're ahead of ourselves. As usual, we are the champions of burying the lead, as they say in journalism. We're talking about the episode we just made in the intro, when that's what you do in the outro. But it feels good because we had so much fun. Tell them why we had so much fun.
Well, we got to talk to one of my, I'm fortunate to say, good friends, Raelynn Janicke.
Janicke.
God.
You're not the name guy. I'm the name guy. It's
No,
fine.
yeah, I know. But we got to talk to my buddy Raelynn, and not only is she such a talented mastering engineer, but she's also just really great to just, talk about music and art and creativity and the engineering side of things that we as musicians may not be familiar with at times. And and it's really, for the longest time I didn't know, what mastering was in relation to like how songs end up sounding good, or like if you want something to sound professional. And it's through the experience of getting songs actually mixed and then getting them sent to Infrasonic Mastering out of Nashville, Tennessee. I got to hear what that sounds like, and it's a night and day difference, and it was just nice hearing that.
And what project did you get to hear this significant difference in what mastering achieves?
Well, for my band Rogue, with an exclamation point, we have an EP out on Spotify called Wasted Heart, and Apple Music and all the streaming platforms, iTunes and all that good stuff.
And can I say real quick, if you like cute videos of cute indie rock band people, go to their YouTube and have yourself a time.
Yep.
It's a brief time, but formative.
Oh, yeah. There will be our
sensual.
Yeah, that's right. We usually try to do one for whatever holidays coming up. So, we've done one for Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day. We have a Halloween one up that'll be Dead Man's Party. That'll be our cover of that. So, yeah, check out if you like funny, like you said, cute videos of musicians doing stuff.
Just cute desert kids doing cute things for the internet to watch. Like cats in human form videos.
Yeah, you're saying that so intensely.
I love what I see. I love you guys.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
But
I'm also a fan of your friend Raelynn.
Yeah, she's super awesome. And not only that, like it's cool getting to know her because she kind of mirrors what I do on the live side, but on the recording side, in the sense of sort of similar paths in life. We both went to school and then kind of got thrown into the professional world, and then ended up working for people that we really like. And
How hard
admire.
physically were you thrown?
Personally, me, at times it was a gentle, sort of toss, and then other times it was like getting thrown into the deep end of the pool.
That made me nervous.
Yeah,
I got nervous for you. Sorry.
Continue. It's a smooth save.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we kind of have that similar backstory, and so we relate about those things in a lot of ways. And yeah, I always enjoy getting to meet genuine people in the business, because sometimes it when I first met, not just her, but her, boss, Pete Lyman, who was the one that mastered our EP, like sometimes you meet people like that in the music industry, and they can kind of have a weird attitude, or they kind of might treat you like, you're beneath, like, but sort of like a, beneath you sort of
There's
situation.
a potential intimidation factor, right?
Yeah,
I mean, because
and-
he's done serious work, and that matters to people like us, and so you never know if he's going to come off like, look what I've done.
Right. And
know?
they were the exact opposite of that. They were super cool. And like she mentioned, they all come from sort of the DIY punk hardcore scene in their various respected areas of the country. And so I felt like talking to them, I could relate because we both come from that same sort of DIY background growing up here in the desert. So it's, just very, very cool, down to earth people that just want to help you make your, music sound as good as possible. So
turn your shart into art. That's what they do at Infrasonic.
that's exactly right. Without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Yeah.
I think it's like I watched too many like home quarantine videos that were like shitty quality, so I'm like, okay, I should at least try.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah. Well, and we're kind of used to that now, I think, because there's so much like zooming and all that like
guitar lessons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well,
Yeah.
Davey's a teacher, so he's doing that whole thing and having to adapt to the virtual
I've never
world.
been so laid back. I just sit there and I'm like, paint me a picture. Just draw some shit. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're not listening. It's just great.
Damn.
Oh.
Yeah, it'll be great to get back to reality.
Yes.
3-dimensional people, fourth wall, the whole thing.
Is it better or worse that they're 2-dimensional kids?
Okay.
You know, the
Cool.
thing is, I always felt like kids really do well when you get them out of their element, and they never are more like dumb or lazy than when they're in their own room. Myself
That's fair.
included. So I always try to get them like, hey, buddy, could you maybe go in the living room? And you actually get more out of them just by doing that in their own house. But
Oh yeah.
that's the thing about like the difference is like, yeah, they're still the same people. They're still enjoyable, but I can't teach them anything.
Yeah. It's
That's
distracting.
fair.
But I made my peace with them. I'm getting paid. Fuck it.
Yeah, honestly, it's like
Right?
you're still getting your money. They're like still learning something for the most part. Like, you're good.
Yeah, they're learning how to socialize with old people. It's great. That's like Big Brother. It's awesome. Is that what it's called? Big Brother?
Oh,
No,
the
that's a
The like
show.
hidden camera show.
No, I'm
No, you're
of,
thinking of the mentor thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think that is also
It's called
called
something
Big Brother.
Brothers.
Yeah. Older brother. Step brother.
Step
I
Brothers.
like that.
Adopted
I'm
brother.
gonna start a new one called Older Brother.
Yeah. You give him advice, but then you punch him in the arm really hard
Yeah.
from time to time.
Hey, I love you, fucko. Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Cool. Well, you're in charge of the clap sync because I fuck it up really bad. So
Okay, I clap sync, you start.
Yeah.
I clap sync, you start.
Yes.
Oh wow, I just read your shirt.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to bring that up in a minute.
yeah.
Are you wearing an Adam Lambert Queen shirt?
I love her voice.
Who are you?
Are you? Oh,
it
did the lights change or is that you?
Oh
What's
my
going
God.
on here? Holy moly.
I'm like a little sad, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, it's got like 2 of the original people that are still alive in it. Come on now. I like Brian May.
Everybody likes Brian May.
Is it just me or does Brian May have kind of a Richard Simmonsy thing kind of going?
Just with
got-
the hair,
like
not
before
with his
Richard's-
Yeah, just
personality.
bigger hair.
I think I think his personality is getting more Richard Simmonsy. I think.
Really? No, Richard Simmons is the most disgusting, weirdest person I've ever met.
Wow, coming out strong against.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite guys, and you're one of my favorite guys. Coming out strong
Oh no, yeah,
against each other.
he's super creepy.
Ouch.
Yes.
Super creepy?
Yeah. No, he was like, I don't know. I mean,
I mean, super
All right, hold-
weird.
wait, I was going to say, do we want to add this into the podcast?
No.
Okay.
Like you bashing Richard Simmons, probably not.
Yeah.
He
It's like War of the Podcast. Too soon. Too soon.
Yeah, no, I'll just put it this way. When we shook hands, it was right outside the whiskey in my very young, just started playing in LA life. And as we
Did
shook
you hear that?
as we
You
shook
met Richard Simmons?
You-
Wait, before you
That's
go
what I said, he was-
anywhere.
Stop. What?
Yeah, no, he was I got a picture of it. I'll send it to you. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. It was my first time playing LA at the whiskey, and my band was doing a pay to play thing, and we were standing outside. Most of us were, like the drummer, singer, and me. We were standing outside, and a friend of the singer goes, "Hey, is that Richard Simmons across the street?" Because like across from the whiskey, there's a little gas station, like a little like
Not the hustler store, but caddy corner.
No. Yeah, that's up
Caddy
the
corner.
street. The gas station is right across the street. So her friend starts yelling, "Hey, hey!" and like waving, and then
Oh my God.
LA amateur.
and then we're all like, "What are you doing?" And then and then he's just kind of waves back. She runs across the street, grabs him, and then convinces him to come over and like start talking to us. So he goes, "Oh, this is my time to go into like performance mode." So he's like thinks he's like a stand-up comedian, and he starts like talking to us and
starts
doing
doing
like
bits.
a shtick, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Like
Bit life. I
yeah,
love it.
no. He goes like,
Yeah.
"What's going on here?" Like, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, there's bands playing here." My singer says, "Oh, they have bands here." "Oh, they have music here?" And he's just like totally like acting all dumbfounded. And he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna be going on in a few hours." He goes, "You mean they have bands playing all night long?" And then he just stopped.
Did he hit it nice like you did?
I don't remember. I think he
That
did.
That was on the key.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, he did that. We were like, yeah. And then
Party.
yeah, the band I was in at the time, her singer's mom was standing right there too. And so he goes, "Well, who's this?" And then Jen, the singer, goes, "Oh, this is my mom." And he goes, "Oh, honey, you are just cute as shit." And this is like some
my
Midwestern,
God.
like really conservative, nice lady, but like really reserved. So, and she's like, "Oh, you are just cute as shit." And like, she just froze up and was like, what's going on? Like, what the
Richard
fuck?
Simmons just told me I was cute. I'm good forever.
Yeah, no,
Right?
she was like horrified, like, because he was just he was so like outgoing.
People.
Yeah, and then then it switches over to me, and then it's like, "Well, who's this?" It's like, "Oh, well, this is my bass player." And then he starts showing me this piece of jewelry that he made that he sells on like QVC, and he's like, "Look." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's nice." And then yeah, he goes, "Oh yeah, this is my bass player." And then he goes, "Oh, well, all band members are just trash." And then he moved on to the drummer, and I was like, "Did this motherfucker just call me trash?"
God.
Yeah. And
Dude, he was probably just trying to get some fucking mini donuts at the gas station and then got roped into this
Oh,
shit.
yeah, no, he
Probably
was-
like, what the fuck?
no, but it's
Right?
still though it was weird. It was like his whole vibe and aura was just weird. Then he switched over to John Blanchard. He yeah.
is. I mean, I feel like he was just doing the transactional thing. He's like,
Yeah.
the bitch did run across the street to get me,
Oh, right.
and he assumed, poor guy, limited as he must be.
Right.
Yeah, as we all are in entertainment. They all wanted to talk. They all wanted a piece. So
Right.
he's like, "Oh, tall boys always get sass." So He
Right.
gave you that sass.
Right. No, he did, and then he moved on to our drummer John, and his wife was there.
Yeah.
And so he goes, "Oh, this is my drummer John," and he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And he already sees this coming. Like, I see the look on his face. He already sees like he's gonna get roasted next. And he goes, "Oh, this is your wife?" And he goes, "Oh, well, don't cheat on her, honey, because she's gonna cut your dick off." And then I see my
God.
my singer's mom just like even more horrified
Like
now.
mortified.
Yeah, and then so we're trying to end this interaction, and so it's like, "Hey, how about a picture?" And then he starts posing for a picture with us, and I'm just standing here going, "What the fuck's going on?" And then some kid, now there's a line to get into the whiskey, because there's people waiting to get in. So there's like, I don't know, 10 people outside, and then so this one kid, as we're taking a picture, goes, "Hey, could I get one afterwards?" He goes, "Oh, go away." And then he just like gave him sass, and then he goes, "Hey, I'm a big fan of Jazzercise," and then he goes, "That's not me, that's some other lady, honey, and she's dead," and then goes back to smiling for the picture.
Some other lady,
And
honey.
she's dead.
Oh.
That's some other lady, and she's dead. And it
That's
was just, and
amazing.
he didn't know how to respond. He just kind of smiled and like, and turned around. But yeah,
Dude, if I was like famous though and people came up to me all the time, I'd be like, "Go away, don't talk to me." I'm like already like that, and I'm not famous. So I'm
Yeah,
just
right,
kinda
right.
You're not like that.
If
I don't
you're
believe
famous-
that.
no, I was gonna
I
say,
believe you have time for everybody who's worth it. I
No.
believe it.
You-
You're nice people.
No,
That's
you'll
fair,
give
that's
me
fair.
I
shit about
believe
my
it.
concert tee choices, but I don't think you would give.
Dude,
some
you're wearing a
random person
fucking
shit.
Adam Lambert shirt.
Bro,
What do you
don't
want
line
from
yourself
me?
up for another stabbing.
What do you want from
Here,
me?
you,
just-
do you have
I
some,
mean,
do you have
there's
some
some
gaff
coals that
tape?
could rake
I can
you
just
over.
stick it over the fucking bottom part of this.
Just stick it over
I would
both
love
parts.
that.
I'm like, it's not Queen, technically, if you want me to be a dick. I mean, it's just. They should call it what's below that, or like not officially, like Queen Mother when you retire or
This is
some
good.
shit.
I'm
They should
gonna-
call it Queen Mother because they're older and they're retired.
I'm gonna get a whole wardrobe of just T-shirts that'll just make people inflamed in the comments. So like,
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Limp Bizkit T-shirt, fucking
No.
Yeah, $3 bill, y'all.
yeah. Creed.
A lot
Tour
of people come back and they hiss at Limp Bizkit now, but I was there in 1994 and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Limp Bizkit!"
Yeah.
So whatever, I call you all out.
All right.
All you
I was born
internet
that year.
children.
If that puts that into perspective for you.
It doesn't change my mind about anything at all, but it does put things in perspective.
All right.
Age
Here.
is nothing but a number.
Here, before
That's
this
fair.
goes off
Quote
the
the
rails,
great- never mind.
Yeah.
let's do. You gotta do the clap sync, and then
Oh, yes.
and then I'll do the introduction.
Back to life, back to reality. 3, 2, 1.
All right, and so today in our council meeting, episode 3, we are joined by the wonderful, stupendous, talented mastering engineer Raelynn.
Hi.
How are you doing? Good to see
I
you.
am wonderful. Good to see you too.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't want to fuck up your last name, so I just said Raelynn because I had
That's
that
fair.
fear. I didn't. I'm sure you must get that more often than you'd like. So I just didn't want to I didn't want to do that while we were doing the podcast. So
That's fair. That's like my whole entire name. That's why like 90% of the people that know me just call me Ray because they're like, I don't know what any of the letters after those 3 mean. And I'm like,
Damn.
that's easy. But it's Janicke, if you were curious.
okay, yeah. It was one of those. I know how to pronounce it, but it was a
Raelynn
little
Janicke.
bit like I just. Sometimes I can't trust myself with that sort of stuff. So just wanted to.
Yeah.
Just wanted
In the
to do
moment
that.
where you're like, I'm not stupid, I'm just panicking, I promise.
yeah. Well, and I feel you because I have the IE thing at the end of my name being Jesse. So like,
I never saw that many vowels in your name.
yeah, it's
Where's
it's
the IEE situation in your name?
well, because like people always spell it JESSIE, and
oh,
so
I was
like,
thinking of Davidson.
yeah, well, and like
Yeah, I was like, what?
I was like,
yeah,
bro.
no, like I get the IE or with Davison, like sometimes people will say Davison and they won't put the D in, so like DAVISON. Yeah, so I feel you. I get that sometimes.
Is it spelled like how it sounds? Like JANICKEY? Or am I wrong?
You were good until you said why, and then that was
Filth. I am filth.
garbage. No,
All
I'm
right.
just kidding.
Help me fix it. How's it end? What's
It
the
ends at the E. You were good. You were
dang.
golden all the way
Oh.
up to it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, solid.
All right.
That's a solid.
Not bad. That's a 98%, I say.
Yeah.
That's like the first time that's ever happened in my life. So like, pretty good.
Thank you. I have a name that's not that hard to say, but people always read it and have a hard time. So that's my empathy. My name empathy is coming out strong for you. That's
Wait, what do people mess up with yours?
well, it's Sipes, so it's a lot of and they get scared. And they read it off of things, like at the market where they're always trying to be courteous. And it's like, yeah, I've been here 20 years, so you got to read my name off the card. Anyway, so they're like, hey, Mr. Spees. And I'm like, hey, how's it going?
Oh no.
First of all, I never correct people. Later, I will mock them to my friends and family, but I would never correct people because that's wrong.
Yeah,
But Snipes is my favorite one to get. I love that.
yeah.
Ooh,
Because then I'm like, yep, cousin of Wesley, baby. Boom,
Yeah.
boom. Boom, boom.
that's my cousin. You heard of him?
You
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
They know.
Hey,
But cool.
if you say anything deadpan enough and convincing enough, you can make people believe a lot of things. You just have to have the
Oh, yeah.
confidence to like deliver it across.
To go deadpan.
Yeah, it's like when you walk into somewhere. It's like when you walk into somewhere with no ID, but you have like a backpack or a clipboard, and then people just go like, "Oh yeah, dude's like official," and like,
I don't do this. No.
Yeah.
With the beard, I don't do
Oh,
stuff like that.
I was gonna say
No
that's,
backpacks and beards without fucking badges, bro.
that's
Oh,
that's a gig
I'm
life.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gig life for me, trying to find where to go and check in, and
Oh,
usually
yeah.
don't get bothered.
But
if
you
look
have that
official.
look. You have that look like it's like, I mean, as long as you're not, if you're wearing like a jumpsuit, then I'm scared. If you're wearing a trench coat, then I'm
Right.
running. But if
Right.
you're dressed like
if you're
this,
wearing
I'm
a
like,
trench coat, I'm running.
yeah, well, look at him. But otherwise, I'm like, oh,
Amazing.
he's in the band or he does the stuff for the band. But
Right.
I was like, stage it that way. I wouldn't even look up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse, you kind of just look like a gig dude.
Gig, dude.
Yeah, I get that, and people usually guess bass player, which is weird, like without knowing me. So I guess like I don't know, I fit how I look, I guess. Like that whole like my vibe suits me or whatever.
I think that means you're like true to who you are, though. You're not just like wearing an Adam Lambert Queen shirt and like not repping it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I mean,
a callback and a slam.
yeah.
She is good.
Oh, yeah.
We have our third person for the cast.
Yeah.
Finally. I was like, this is the energy
Here
I
for
need.
it.
It's more fun to gang up on you. So this is great.
Well, speaking of good,
Speaking
segue,
of good, segue. Kick it. Kick it, MC.
You are one of the crew over at Infrasonic Mastering out of Nashville, Tennessee. And
I sure am.
yeah, and your title would be studio manager, if I'm correct.
Yes, I'm studio manager, but I also a mastering engineer there, so I'm kind of double duty at the moment.
Yeah, and for those that are unaware, she works for the legendary mastering engineer Pete Lyman, and he's done a lot of, I'd say, I don't know, within the past 5 years, he's done Chris Stapleton, Sturgill Simpson, Tom Waits, did a Tom Waits record, Panic at the Disco, Weezer, ton of people, and really is one of the holdouts of people that, like, you guys are still in the analog vinyl mastering game, and like that's really like where your specialty
Yeah.
lies.
It's really cool. Like, my entire life have loved vinyl and loved the idea of like doing analog mastering. Like, that was what I learned. Like, when I learned mastering, I didn't use any digital processing at all. It was all outboard gear. We used radar. It was like bare bones pretty much. So it's really cool to be able to still be able to do that in my new position. But now I have been doing some digital processing because it's just wonderful. I know. I've always been like, oh, all analog, but I'm like, no, okay, the FabFilter Pro Q3 is like an amazing EQ, and I will probably use it forever. But being able to do vinyl is really awesome too. Like, being able to physically cut records and like sit with Pete, who I've looked up to for years and is now my boss and a good friend of mine. Like, I feel so grateful that he's just like, yo, do you want to come like cut this thing with me? And I'm like, absolutely, I will be right there. Like, hell yeah. And I feel like I've just learned so much about the vinyl world in particular that has been the most rewarding part of that job.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Cool as hell.
That's a skills.
Chop, 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 chop.
That's that's
I'm gonna get you, boy.
yeah. That's a skill set that, like, I won't say it's not a lost art, because nowadays people are buying records and it's like it's
Yeah.
a viable thing, and I think people are aware of that now, and it's not like a novelty, but it is a thing of like it's a skill set that not many people have. So the fact that you can switch back and forth and master for analog and digital is super cool, and that
Yeah.
you have a great dojo to hone your chops in and learn all that stuff.
Dude, I feel so fucking grateful that I have that job. Like, my entire life, like, I've been like, oh man, like, I can't wait to have a kick-ass job and like do all the cool stuff. And then like moving here 3 years ago, like, jump started all of it. And now I'm like, I have my dream job, and that's like, I'm never gonna take that for granted. Like, I feel very, very lucky that I get to do that every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you just mentioned that, like, can you give us like some info about where you started and like where you grew up and
You're saying it wrong.
What?
Origin story.
Oh yes,
Origin
sorry.
story. That sounds way more
Episode
intense.
1.
I feel like this is like a Spider-Man thing now, and I'm here for it.
There,
Yeah, see? Got to ASMR it and be like, this is the origin story of Raelynn.
The origin story.
Janicke.
This isn't NPR. This is Sonic City Council.
Sonic
and
City
this
Council.
Is Raelynn,
Sonic
tell
City.
me your origin story.
Origin story.
Oh man, I would be more than happy to. So, I'm from upstate New York originally. I grew up 20 minutes south of Albany. Went to school in Rochester at RIT, and originally went to college for computer science, which I loved doing. But the more that I started doing it in school, the more I was like, God damn, I do not want a cubicle job for the rest of my life. I fucking hate this. And I was also in an a cappella group at the time that was recording an EP. And the dude that was tracking it for us was like, yo, do you want to like do some editing and assistant work for me? And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not doing anything else. I'm in college. And, no big deal. So I was like, yeah, dude, whatever. I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but like, if you're cool with that, then that's fine. So I ended up like assisting doing that record basically, and was like, oh my God, you can like do this as a job? Like, that's wild. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I ended up dropping out of that program and switching to what was a very tiny audio engineering program at my school, which was like through like the electrical engineering department. Like it was so small, it wasn't even a major. I had to like shift some stuff together and then was like, yeah, give me a degree. That's fine. So I ended up doing that. And in the summers, I would go to Boston and intern at a studio out there called Soundtrack Boston that did a lot of like voiceover work and like post stuff. So when I graduated college, I moved out there and worked for them. And then the more that I kind of like got into that, the more I was like, I want to do music. Like music has been the biggest thing my whole life. Like my dad plays guitar. Like I grew up playing saxophone. Like I've been singing my entire life. Like, yeah. And did like, did like a bunch of like music theory. Like I have a huge theory background. I did a ton of that in college and got a music tech minor. And when I was in the a cappella group, I was one of the only people that knew music theory. So I did a ton of arrangements, which included a Slipknot song because I really wanted to do it. And I was like, well, y'all motherfuckers don't know how to arrange. So guess what we're doing?
That's so dope. What song did y'all do?
Yeah. Dead Memories, which is not the greatest. That's not off of the greatest record ever. I would say the self-titled is the best, but it was like, I don't know. I was like, this will be cool. No big deal.
Oh, man. That first album is the best album. Yep.
I agree. I think that I was a close second. I was talking to Jesse about this the other day, actually, how I went to Knotfest twice. I flew out to California for that. And how the second year I went, which was when they did it with Ozfest, Slipknot played Iowa front to back. Oh. And by the end of it, I was like, Corey Taylor looks like he's going to just die, like on stage. Like he just looks dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was so good. It was so good.
That's so fucking cool, dude. Oh.
But anyway, after all of that stuff happened, and I was like, I don't want to do like voiceovers. I want to do music. That's like my passion. I just kind of like picked up all my shit and moved to Nashville and was like, I don't know, let's see what happens. And the bar that I was working for in Boston while I was also doing the soundtrack job opened a store here. So they were like, yo, do you want to like go down there? And I was like, absolutely. Like moving to a new place and having a job immediately so I can try and pursue this other thing. Yeah, let's do it. And within a week of moving here, I met my mentor, Tommy Wiggins, who I worked with for the last 2 years. And then last August, I got hired at Infrasonic because Pete had like I'd been introduced to Pete through Reed Shippen, who's an engineer in town that like I had seen talk on panels, but ultimately like he was a bar regular of mine and like I took care of him all the time, but he knew that I did mastering too. And he was like, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. And I was like, okay, cool. And then it was Pete and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I've looked up to him forever. Like, hell yeah. And then we just kind of ended up keeping in touch. And then he asked me to work for them last August. So I feel like everything like worked out like in a weirdly like smooth way that I'm like, that would probably have never happened again in a million years, but like cool with it happening now.
Yeah,
definitely.
You can't plan that. You kind of just have to, I don't know. It sounds really cliche, but like, you know, following your heart or like, you know, going in that direction that you like, I'm just going to move here and see what happens. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like I always thought about moving here, but like I never thought that I would. 'Cause I'm like, from New York, and then I lived in Massachusetts, like very liberal places, and like grew up in like the New York hardcore scene where everybody's like, fuck rednecks. And then I was like, I'm going to move to the South and see what happens, you know? But yeah, I don't know. Like, I just feel like if I hadn't done all of these things and like followed the signs from the universe, that I would not be where I am. And I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I wasn't here right now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way, which is kind of funny that like, when we first started talking and we had met, and it was weird because I had that in like the live side of things where it was like I had gotten, you know, one thing led to another and got hooked up with doing different guitar tech gigs or like, you know, stagehand work and getting to do like crazy stuff. And it was weird because like, you know, we're, you know, similar age, like really close and like similar music path and like just kind of like learning from all these different professional people. And it's kind of like, it was just interesting having a conversation with somebody where it was like, oh, isn't this crazy? I know, right? Oh, it's like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I don't know.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. No, and so it's so cool to like talk about that story just because it's, I feel like a lot of people can get, cynical sometimes with pursuing like their passion, or they can get lost in like,
or they make up excuses.
or make up
A
excuses.
lot of people will bullshit themselves to the nth degree, and I love how that's like, myself included, honestly. That's why it's like I'm still like, let's keep charging ahead.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the idea of picking up, going somewhere, and being like, we'll see what happens is like, that's what bravery is, folks. And it's good to force yourself to be brave, because look what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's definitely worth following your passion like that. And so
no segue.
No segue.
I chopped your segue in half.
Well, right.
Well, my question for Raelynn is this: I'm like, so growing up, you were doing music, and then you had that session with the a cappella group, and sitting in and doing that session, that's really what first got you kind of turned on to the idea of engineering and stuff, right? And that background?
I had not done any sort of engineering. I didn't even know that was like a job you could have, because it was like growing up, it was like, oh, you like go to college and then you're like a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor, and no one tells you like the creative fun jobs that you could have, or like just doing whatever the fuck you want and not being like, oh, society tells me I need to be productive. I'm like, no, I don't give a fuck. I want to do music forever. Like, that's what I want.
Right.
And
hell yeah.
The guy that tracked our EP when I was in the group, like I think he was like doing some other sort of work, but then was engineering on the side, and just kind of like showed it to me and like taught me Pro Tools and taught me Logic, and was like, this is what an interface is, and like gave me like one of his like M-Box interfaces when I was like 19, and he was just like, here you go, like have fun, figure it out. And I was like, sick, oh my god, this can be a job. Like, that was the first real thing, and he kind of took me under his wing. And actually, my a cappella group, I just mastered their new record like last month, which is like a weird full circle thing that I'm like, damn, I was in the group, and now the guy that taught me hooked me up with like mastering their new record, and I was like, my little heart.
That is so cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love those first full circle moments. Not easy to say, but important to appreciate.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to like, and not even in a braggy way, but just in a way of like seeing like the progress that you've made, and like like point A to
humble
point
brag
B.
is, I think, fine, to quote the great Harris.
Brag.
Rest in peace, Harris Whittles. I think there's nothing wrong with a good humble brag every now and again.
Hey, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
You gotta like give yourself some credit sometimes, and not just be like, oh yeah, I'm okay, I guess this is fine. It's like, no, that's like a cool fucking thing that happened.
It really is. I think it goes back to what you mentioned about it. Like, you were making, light of it, of course, because it's silly. But society does force us all into certain boxes at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, we feel that pressure. So the more you resist, the more you can kind of become what you really want to be, or what you're supposed to be, if that's a thing.
Yeah. And that was my whole thing too. Was like, now I'm in a job that like you don't really need a degree for, but like I was the first person in my family to like go to a 4-year college and like go and graduate, like,
right.
And that was kind of like a thing that I was like, I feel weirdly responsible for doing this for some reason. And then going into a job that I didn't need a degree for, and I was kind of like, well, that was dumb, but like I did it.
Yeah. Well, and it does come in handy. It's not a requirement, but like it I don't know. It's weird because I can't speak to like getting recording gigs, but on the live side, like I've gotten so many gigs just based off of word of mouth, and like somebody recommends you for something, and then you get a phone call and it's like, hey, so-and-so recommended you. Do you know how to blah, blah, blah? Can you do this? And you're like, yeah. Like, all right, so the gig is, this day. And I love that compared to like, the real world of like when I was applying to like Costco and Panda Express and like In-N-Out Burger.
Yes.
And then they were like, well, we'll keep your application on file. And I was just like, oh God.
I know how to shake fries into a basket. Hire me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, with that energy,
exactly.
I'd hire her first.
Right.
Nobody comes in with that kind of boom,
Yeah. And
exactly.
That's awesome.
But like, I know there are some gigs in that world, like the live world, where it's like, they do actually look at like, did you go to school? Like, do you have like an audio degree or something?
Yeah.
Like, so it does. I mean, it's not like, it's not like you would never need it. So, I think
I feel like
does that
Nashville
ever come
in
up?
particular, not really. Like Nashville in particular is very much like who you know, and like not being an asshole is a huge part of that too. Like Pete always says, like hire people that you like fuck with and that you like want to hang out with and spend time with, and not like, oh, you have this degree but you're a fucking pain in the ass, like, no, don't work for me. It's like, no, like,
Right.
if you vibe with somebody and they do a good job, like, that's mostly why you get gigs in Nashville specifically, I think, is like who you know and if you have a good attitude.
Yeah. And I think there's a misconception about that because some people complain about it's all about who you know, but it's your talent and who you know gets you in the door. But like what you're talking about, having a good attitude and doing a good job, like, keeps you there. There's a lot of people that have a resume of like, I've worked with all these people, but it's like for, you know, such a short amount of time, or it's like, you know, I got hired by this person and then like it just didn't work out. And so it's true. It's like, and I think it works that way in California too. It's you know, it's about who you know, but also it's the hang too.
Well, it's about exploiting people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I would love to know more about that side of California culture because I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that.
Break it down, Jay.
It's
Jay Bones hot take.
hot take.
Hot take.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I've had so many compliments on me to where like and I think I didn't grow up in like LA proper necessarily, of like in Hollywood or any of those places, or like didn't go there with the intention of like trying to morph my personality to like fit whatever that was. And so I just started like working down there and meeting people, and I didn't really change my attitude. Like my personality was already like formed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like people move there and sometimes they try to adapt what they do to like basically mold their opinions and personality into what you think it's going to be. And that just like, it kind of like, it doesn't come off as genuine. And so like, I've had a lot of people like compliment me on like work ethic, or like that you're an honest person, or like a decent person. And like, that's like a huge that's like a big factor of like why I've maintained gigs, where it's like, oh yeah, you're honest and like you have a good work ethic. And I'm like, well, wouldn't other like more people have that too? But apparently not. Like,
There's a
You
lot
would
of
think
rollover.
so.
yeah, no, like,
Yeah, you would
for
think
that reason.
so.
yeah. No, I've maintained a couple gigs just because I wasn't on my phone the whole time, and like I was actively looking for stuff to do. And I guess the previous like hands, or like, you know, stage hands or techs that came in like didn't do that. That they were like just on their phone and like just daydreaming the whole time, or not paying attention, or like thought this was like beneath their station or something. And it's like, I don't know how people get gigs, you know. I don't know. Like, I've had that happen, you know, a couple times where it's like, oh yeah, you were really on top of it. I'm like, yeah, there's other people out here that want to do this too. And like, if you want to compete with those people, you kind of have to like, you know, be on your game, I guess, you know.
And that's like them complimenting you on like the bare minimum thing you have to do for that job. Like, oh, you weren't on your phone and you paid attention. Good job.
Yeah.
Like, that shouldn't be that hard.
Well, I think the
like,
factor that you're hearing about, though that's true, I think part of it is just that when you're so consistent that people can't help but notice that you're not, you know, just fucking around, but you're always concerned with what's happening on stage. That makes an impression over time. It's cumulative, and that's really what I think is that's. You know, it's like you're a super nice guy, but that consistency is like, yo, that's something that somebody works their ass off at. Like, that takes a different sort of metal, if you will.
Well, the metal.
Yeah. Not that one, the other one.
Right.
I love this kid.
Yeah. No, and I also think, too, it speaks to, I don't know, something about, like, not only, like, it's just the caring factor, because I think people can pick up on that. And also, like, it's not just, like, you never make mistakes either, because I've made mistakes on gigs, and just the way I've handled it and handled the situation, like, professionally, I guess people like that, too, because sometimes, you know, like, everybody makes mistakes, and so the way you handle those mistakes and how you, like, relate that to who's hiring you, like, makes all the difference in the world.
But also, like, you can take responsibility for your shit. So, like, if you fuck up and you take responsibility, people are more apt to be like, yeah, okay, that's cool, you fucked up, but, like, you didn't blame it on someone else or make an excuse. Like,
or
that is, like, everything.
Or, you know, this as an engineer, even though you're not on the live side of things, when people try to, like, mystify you with audio shit to, like, oh, yeah, they don't know as much audio stuff as I do, so they'll throw out, like, a lot of terms and, like, oh, well, you know, I don't know what's going on with, you know, this because of, you know, this, and it's like, and they try to just baffle you with bullshit. And I'm not the greatest engineer. Like I come from more of the school of like just from doing it over and over again, and I know how to patch things in and
Faders go
Yeah.
up and down.
well, right. And it's well, no, and like
Oh, man.
I cut my teeth doing punk shows and like kind of every gig was like a trial by fire, and so like I didn't. I mean, I went to school, but it's not like I went to school for engineering. It was a music program here in the Valley,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, commercial music program. So,
Whoop,
quick shout out there.
Nice.
But yeah, like I learn off of experience, and so like while I might not necessarily be the most technically proficient engineer, I can get things up and running and sound check it and dial out feedback and all that stuff that you need to do. Like, could I necessarily tell you like, oh, that's exactly 5.3, it's like 5K, it's like I can tell you what range it's in. I might be able to hit it on the dot. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's 2.4K and I need to bring that down as 6 decibels. Like, no, I don't think that way.
I'm already getting enraged with all of this 5K
Oh,
nonsense.
right.
I don't
I'm
know
like,
what it
damn,
means.
Jesse, you sound like me.
Right. No, like it's, put it this way. It's like there's some people that like when you meet them, they try to impress you with like their know-how and
Sure.
like overly throwing stuff out there. And then when they make mistakes and like I know stuff is going wrong and and on the playing side of things, I'll be like playing a gig and there'll be like feedback or like, the monitors aren't working or stuff. And they're like, I just don't know what it is. There's, blah, 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 blah. And I know enough to go like, I don't know how you have things set up, but I know that you're trying to like baffle me right now. And I just kind of like sit back and
Sure, I
see how
think we've
that
all
Yeah.
encountered that in our respective niches in this industry for sure. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
playing with people, I've encountered it. Trying to do sessions with people, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to crack into this. I'm going to crack open a fresh one because I'm the neophyte. I don't record. I'll be honest. It's like I love the engineers in my life because they do what I won't, what I can't learn. I'm too dumb. I hate it. It's
No.
boring. We're going to figure out why you found it so fun. But also, I want to ask about live sound. Do you ever do gigs for live sound? And is it a world apart? Because I always assumed they're all faders. Can you break this down for us?
Yeah, so I don't have a ton of live experience. That's never really, and not for any reason that I don't want to. It's just nothing that I've ever done before. The closest thing was me running sound for a church last summer for like 3 different services, but that was like a little like 8-channel like Mackie mixer that I was like, this sounds okay. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's just people talking. It's not real. It's like similar enough in a way that you need to know your frequencies and to not cause feedback and all that fun stuff, but you're on the fly with that. Like, you have no time to just fuck around and be like, I don't know, this sounds better than this. Like, you have to in that moment make a game time decision, which like stresses me the fuck out thinking about. Like, I'm like, nah, I'm cool with like sitting in a room somewhere, being behind the scenes, like taking my time and getting to mess around and try different things. Like, I think the reason that specifically I started doing mastering was because that was kind of just what I fell into with my mentor Tommy. Like, he was a mastering engineer, and when he kind of had me sit with him and listen, he was like, you have mastering ears, like you shouldn't be mixing, like this is what you should be doing. And I was just kind of like, okay, whatever, I'm 22 years old and don't know what I'm doing with my life. So I just
Did
kind
you
of
just
fell
say
into
that
that.
openly and he's like, cool?
Yeah.
I mean, probably. Knowing me, that's probably something
yeah,
I
you seem
said.
very open. I can just see she's like,
Yeah,
whatever,
I'm
I'm
like-
just 22.
I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm also like, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, as long as I'm like doing something cool and that
Right.
I enjoy, then I'm like, whatever.
Right.
But I also just with mixing, like, I feel like my brain is so much more like problem solving than it is like creative. So I don't want to sit and fuck with delay and reverb for 4 hours and then be like, this sucks. Like, I want to be like, no, this frequency is weird and it sounds muddy. Like, what one is it? Let me get rid of it. Cool. That sounds
Right.
good now. Like, I'm much more, and I think that kind of stems back to like my computer science brain that I want to problem solve and not be creative and like make things sound a certain way. Cause I'm like, that's like not fun for me. So
That's
I don't know. I
awesome.
think that things worked out well in the mastering world because I feel like it's puzzly enough that I enjoy doing it, but it's still like music.
Yeah.
Is this the connection I've missed after? I mean, you guys probably have explained it, but you know how I pay attention to things. So are engineers like puzzle people then? Is it like I mean, I'm asking you, but I'm also asking Max, the silent partner back there. You can just shout or whatever. That's how I talk to him. My voice changes.
Well, I would say it depends.
Or say nothing.
I feel like I feel like every engineer has a certain bit of problem solving. You know,
Yeah.
Even where like you get engineers where, you know, I'm kind of in a bunch of different worlds in that I'm still actively a musician, and that's more of where my passion is than engineering. But I still love opportunities to mix, and like, especially I usually end up in, except for like doing hometown gigs, I'll end up doing more mixing. But like out and about or driving to LA, it's usually like helping an engineer like patch stuff together. So I'm like usually like, doing patchwork and like with the big rack of like inputs and where all the XLR is going, like in snakes and all that kind of technical audio jargon. Like patching all that
Audio jargon.
Yeah, patching all that stuff in. Because like I try to keep in mind that like not everybody will nerd out, so I try to be able to like include the people that don't nerd out.
Like my mom that'll watch this and be like, I don't know what an XLR cable is, and I'm like, that's cool, Mom. It's a thing that goes into a thing. That's all you need to know.
Yeah,
what? That's an explanation.
And what?
Hey, let's shout out. What's your mom's name?
It's a thing that goes into a thing. My mom's name is Lisa.
Hey, Lisa. Thank you for Raelynn. She's very cool.
I'm okay.
Yeah, she's all right. Well, you know what? As soon as I saw her, I was like, denim jacket with buttons. I know somebody who rocks that look all the time who's super fucking cool. Me.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, this will be a great combo.
We literally
just to also, on that topic, point out, Jesse, I have a Wayne's World button on here. And
party time.
Henry Rollins is on my other side.
Oh, dude. Yes. This is why we're friends.
Oh, my
I know.
My goodness.
I was literally, we were texting like the other night, and then he was like, hey, what are you up to? And then I'm like, oh, I'm just watching UHF, like, and then not only did she know what that movie was, but had seen it and really loves that movie. So like,
I think my response to that was in all caps text that said Twinkie Wiener Sandwich.
Yeah. I was gonna say
it
was yes, and then it was Twinkie. No, I
Wheel
said
of Fish. Oh my god, yeah.
I said Twinkie Wiener Sandwich, or I said Spatula City or
Spatula
Twinkie
City
Wiener Sandwich. I think
Yes.
that's what it was.
I wore that one out in my house.
Yeah.
Dude,
oh yeah.
I used to watch that movie all of the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's like that and like Airheads, like all the movies that the
yeah.
knucklehead movies my dad made me watch that I'm now like a grown ass woman and I'm like, oh my god, I love that Weird Al movie from the 80s, you know?
Yeah. For all you care, our album could be Pip farting on a snare drum. I ain't farting on no snare drum.
I ain't farting on no snare drum.
Yeah. Oh,
I love that movie so much.
Oh, me too.
So classic.
Me too. But
But XLRs.
But yeah.
Yeah, XLR. Sorry to derail that.
Yeah.
Real quick.
No.
Compression and things that do that.
That's what this is
Yeah,
about.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Preamp.
No, I feel like every engineer has a little bit of problem solving, even when you get people where it's like, I do guitar tech work and backline stuff, and then I also am a musician, as well. But I feel like there is a little bit of that problem solving element, at least for the people I feel like that engineering is their thing, and it's like die hard, like that's what it is, especially in a recording context. There's lots of like creative solutions to stuff. Like there's all sorts of like mic techniques or different things that like people have invented to where it's like they needed a certain sound and they weren't quite getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to like, that's where the creative side of that comes in, where it's like that creativity kind of stops like at the artist and then picks up with the engineer, because they're going to take whatever's going on in that space and then translate it like, here's the divide, right? Before and after Lava Lamp, right?
Okay, I'm with it.
So band is all in here, and then this is the barrier where it reaches the audience. So that's either a listening audience at home or a live audience at a venue. Engineer, it lives in here and basically takes this and then makes it palatable and sound even better than what was originally happening here. And like that's true of like the mixing and mastering side of things. Would you say that's would you say that's a decent analogy?
I think that was fucking spot on. Like I saw this like meme and it was like tracking, and it was like a Pikachu stuffed animal, and then like mixing was like the Pokemon cartoon from like 99 or whatever,
Yeah.
and then mastering was like the new like Detective Pikachu, like that. And I was like, that is so accurate. That is so true. Where it's just like each step, like things get more refined, and it's like a certain amount of problem solving along the way, but a lot of like technicality too.
Yeah.
And like creative stuff.
Well, and actually, segue again.
Seg.
Killing it with
Whoa.
the segues today. I wanted to
Calling segue is that's a hard segue, but sure.
Yeah.
I'll allow
This
it.
is a segue. Segue.
Yeah. I wanted to have you talk about that in detail because I was ignorant to that before my band Rogue ended up through the guy who mixed our EP, Chris Constable, an old bandmate of yours who grew up out here.
Dead Rats.
Yeah, that he's since become a mixing engineer in LA and worked on a bunch of different records. I had known him through just the hometown AV connection, and then he recommended Pete to us, and I hadn't heard of Pete, and I went, okay, cool. Like, he was like, this would be great for Pete to work on, and I went, all right. And I looked up the resume, and I went, holy shit, yeah, like, if he would,
Yeah, right?
like, does he have time? Like, and then through that, like, I saw he was speaking at a panel at NAMM, and then, you know, met him and you, and then, like, you know, you guys were so down to earth, and, like, it was so cool actually, like, being able to, like, kind of talk to you guys about that process and understand it more, because mastering, especially, like, you know, when you've never had your music mastered before, you wonder, like, what is this? And, like, you know, what is it? Why do I need it? So if you can kind of explain it to, like, maybe someone who's an artist of, like, what it is and why it's important, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that I feel like people don't know what mastering is, and they're like, oh, it's like dark art or it's like magic. And I'm like, no, that sounds way cooler than like what we actually do.
Yeah.
But I like, that's one part of my job before I even dive into that I love, is that, like, because I'm also a mastering engineer and the studio manager, like, I can talk to people and be like, this is what it actually is. Like, this is what you're paying for. Like, it's our time and our effort and us quality checking everything like 5 times before it gets to you, because if something goes wrong, that's like our asses are on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are like, oh, well, why do I have to pay for like different deliverables and all that stuff? I'm like, because we sit there all day in the fucking studio listening to your shit over and over again to make sure that it's cool, so that you don't come back to us in 3 months and say, there was a click in this. And then we're like, fuck. So like that's like one part of the job that I love. And like getting to like, I'm like, you and I are like really good friends now, because you were just like a client that Pete had. And then I was like, no, this kid's really fucking cool. Like, we get each other. Like, all right, this is
So
rad.
New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This kid's fucking cool.
This kid's fucking
alright.
cool.
Like, he's
This
tolerable
fucking
as
kid's
shit.
okay.
Hey, one of us.
God, sometimes that really comes out, and I'm like, ooh, put it back in.
But, right?
No. Let
How's
it
that
out.
working down
Let it out.
south? How is that
Oh,
working down south?
it was funny, like the first week that I lived here and I was like working in the bar that I worked for, I was like giving them my spiel, very like, here's what you need to know. And they were like, oh, but like, how's your day going? And I was like, why?
Yeah.
I was like, not trying to be a dick, but like, what,
Yeah.
like, what does it matter
Who
to
asked
you? Why
that?
do you care? Yeah. I was like, that's weird. But now I'm like, oh no, people just genuinely are like, how are you? How's your day going?
Right.
And I'll be like, it was good. I ate a pizza at lunch and now everything's fine.
Yeah.
But so back to the mastering thing, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is like you're getting all the weird. Sorry, this is
No,
like
that's
coming out.
There's a lava lamp and a gavel here. It's like
I'm so here for
welcome
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're here for the weird. So
Yeah, I'm
so
like,
do
Jesse
you.
knows I'm a fucking doofus, so like this is not new to you.
Doofus.
No.
Doofus power. But that's like the favorite part of my job, is that I get to explain that to people, because before I started mastering, it was like, do I even need to do that? Can't I just mix and fucking throw a limiter on it? And it's like, no, don't do that. No. Like, please, for the love of God, have your stuff mastered. It's just people with very attentive ears that can go in and do very like surgical EQ changes. Like, it's just kind of like putting the finishing touches on everything, like a little bit of compression, like some width if you need it. If you're doing vinyl, like having us be able to like sum your bass to mono and like limit your high frequencies, so you're not just sending crazy files to get cut somewhere and not having the guarantee that it'll translate well. Like, there are so many moving parts to the vinyl side of things in particular, but also just mastering. Like, people don't really know just what it is, and it's like, we just want to make sure that it's good for everybody else and that you have what you need. If you're doing like CD replication, you need a certain type of file called a DDP, and that is like a sequenced version of your entire record that has like ISRC codes for distribution and all of your metadata, and like the vinyl side of things too, having all of that honed in. But yeah, it's like, it's fine tuning and just making sure that whatever your image is like pristine and polished enough to like go out to everybody else and end up on a streaming platform and not sound terrible.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And there are so many moving parts because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like Spotify and all the streaming services and YouTube and all that kind of has their own built-in mastering, and so you kind of have to accommodate for that too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
They all have their different loudness levels and algorithms that they run, and we don't do. I get this question a lot actually. If people ask us if we master differently for different platforms, no. That would be insane to try and match your loudness levels with Spotify being one thing, iTunes being another.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're using like a company for distro like DistroKid or TuneCore, like they're going to distribute to everybody. So it's like, you don't want to upload 4 different masters of something. And like, yeah, it's going to sound different on Spotify, but like if you have people that know what they're doing and you can trust them to know it'll translate well, then you don't need multiple versions. Like the only real like multiple deliverables we'll give is if someone needs like a 24-bit master or like an Apple digital master. But other than that, we don't take into consideration that everyone has their own like loudness limitations, because that would be fucking crazy trying to keep up with all of that.
Right. Yeah, that would be. And I think what you just said is key, in that I feel like culture is finally catching up again with sound and music and technology, because for the longest time, especially like within the last 20 years, it was just like, I think it was all about, hey, we're on this new digital format, and like you can stream stuff on your phone, or you can, put stuff on an MP3 player that's like, I had one of those Zen Nano creative ones, it was like this big, and it's like you can put songs on it and take it everywhere. But like, like I wasn't, as a teenager, I wasn't thinking about file quality. It was like, I just can listen to fucking Metallica super loud, my little earbuds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were like, oh, I can steal things off of the internet. I don't care what it sounds like. I'm going to rip something off of YouTube and turn it into an MP3.
Right. But now I think people are finally catching up to the idea of like, if you have something that sounds super washed out and like, it's just kind of lame. And like, everybody's working within a budget, but at the same time, I think, especially like for musicians, they want stuff to sound good, especially because it is going out on like all of these different streaming platforms. So I don't know. I feel like the listener too, culture is finally catching up with, our technology within the last, I don't know, few years.
Yeah.
Give a number.
And there's like 2 things off of what you just said. The first thing is budget too. Like when you were like, oh, like we want Pete to do this, but like if he'll do it, I'm like, if a client has a budget, like talk to us, like let us know what it is. Cause most of the time we're like, yeah, dude, we just want to help you. Like we don't give a shit if it's, we have to cut $200 off. Like we just want to help people like make their shit sound good. Like it's not like we're going to be like, that's unacceptable. Like at least we're not going to do that because we're not fucking assholes. But like, well, like we want to help people, and that's more important than being like, oh, well, you don't have $150. Too bad, Yeah. And also on the switching to the topic of people caring about sound quality, and back to the conversation about vinyl and how it's becoming more prominent, like through quarantine specifically, with people being at home and able to use their record players more. Like most pressing plants that we work with are booked out for the rest of the year. Like they can't start pressing things until next year. And I'm like, that has never happened like in the last 5 years. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
It's just like a testament to how much people are like actually listening to real music again.
Yeah, or I think
gotta be part of it.
Music is becoming, I think, as convenient as it is. I think it is becoming a thing of where it's
so convenient.
It's still convenient, and like streaming is always going to be there in some capacity now. But I feel like people are also wanting the vinyl experience again. So it's like I either want to be able to pull it up, anywhere like on my phone and listen to it, or I want to buy a cool record with a nice piece of cover art, put the record on, and just listen to it at home. And like, you know, and I'm the same. I fall into that. I love being able to stream anything at any time because like my musical ADD brain will be like listening to Buena Vista Social Club, and then I'll be like, oh, now I want to listen to, I don't know, Gojira. Somehow that fucking translates,
That's
you know.
scans.
But like, no, that's how my brain works. In that, like, I'll hear a melody or an idea from somewhere,
Sure.
and then I'll go, oh, that reminds me of this, and then I want to instantly jump to that, and like, I love being able to do that. Or if I've never heard, I remember I had heard the name Flying Lotus somewhere, and I went, I'm just gonna look him up and listen to him because I'm like, why not? I got a fucking computer in my pocket, and I did, and I really liked it. You know, I can't, like, it would be different if like I went to the record store and like, yeah, that looks really cool, but that's like $15-20. Like, do I want to drop that just to be curious? Like, I'm glad my curiosity could go anywhere, but I also like sitting down and like opening up the fold and like looking at the art or like reading the sleeve and reading like the liner notes of like, oh, who mastered this? Oh, who worked on this?
Yeah.
And that was like that Gojira thing, like that album, Magma, their last album that they put out. Yeah. I think it was mastered by Ted Jensen, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's why this sounds good. Cause he's done like so many legends.
So many things.
Yeah. So many things. And I'm like, oh,
so many things.
That's why this is heavy as fuck, but it also sounds like it could be like played in an elevator or at a yacht club, and it just has this weird smoothness to it. I mean, I would.
That's a yacht club I can get behind. Playing Gojira in the elevator, I'm like, hell yeah.
I'm on board.
Yeah.
I ain't mad at that.
No.
Yo, have you ever seen okay, wait, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Did you watch the Sound City documentary that Dave Grohl did?
I watched a couple snippets. I found it a little bit of a little snoozer. So
I
dipped in and dipped out.
This is the
But
great.
again, guilty as charged. I was like, they're talking about shit I don't understand. He said mixer and
you
I saw
were like
needle. And I was
console.
like,
I don't give a shit.
You-
I lost my mind.
You were literally Dave Grohl as Rupert Neve is explaining stuff, and it's going.
And he's
this
like-
guy knows that I dropped out of high school, right?
Yeah,
and it's
right.
like it's like I don't understand any of this in the
Yeah.
subtitles, and he's just
Poor Dave.
yeah.
It's so
poor
good.
Dave.
But that vinyl, like it's a 4-sided LP, and the inside of it, you open up the vinyl and it's the Neve console on the inside. I have it in my living room,
That
and
is
it's
cool.
so fucking cool. I'm like, that's like the whole thing about vinyl is like holding a physical thing that you're like, this is dope.
Yep.
Yeah, no, this I'm gonna come out against it. It's like, yeah, I use a streaming, woohoo. I use Netflix, and I say nay to both streaming and Netflix. In general, I believe that tangible experience is what we need to get back to, and that explains why all the record pressing plants that you know and are affiliated with are booked up, and I can't get my record done on vinyl yet. And that's great. No, it's good. It's good because it's like I agree with you guys. No. I agree with you guys. I'm just like I think you guys are just nice people and seeing the bright side of the coin or whatever it's called. I hate metaphors, but my point is that
the bright side of the coin. Can we just for a moment?
Yeah.
But
Girl, you know.
It's like I love streaming. Like I was jogging this morning, listening to fucking Charlie Parker, and I'm like, this is cool. But I'm like, I go pick up a record, and the sense experience just changes. Like it's just like. I think that's important, and I think that we should try to present music like that, make that the standard again. And if people want to stream, it's like you said, you want to try some shit out, stream it, baby.
Yeah.
Just stream it up.
Right.
Vinyl just feels like intentional. It's not like, I'm putting on some fucking elevator music in the background. It's like, no, I want to listen to like Wildflowers by Tom Petty, and I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to fucking listen to it.
Yeah. Or like,
so good.
I am one of those people that like, if I like the cover art, or if I've heard of a band but never listened to them, or even if I don't know what the fuck it is, I will buy the record just to take like, if I have that little gut feeling of like, I think this is going to be good, I'll buy it. And more often than not, like, you
hate it.
Well, no, I was going to say, and this is why, both sides of the lava
Both
lamp.
sides of the
love
coin.
it.
But Jesse, I feel like your music taste too is like from fucking here to here. So it's like you have all of this in there. So like, what are the odds you would probably buy something and be like, wow, this is terrible?
No, I don't listen to many things and think they're terrible, even if I don't like it. I go like, it's just not for me. Like,
yeah, you can appreciate it.
yeah, like I am that weirdo that like so nice. I found the last time I actually went to the record store, like towards before
Before time.
yeah.
Before time.
Before COVID.
Yeah, I bought a couple records online since then, but I bought Hawkwind. It was a live
Check you
album that
out.
they did. So, and like I'm not super into Hawkwind, but I love Motorhead and Lemmy. So I'm like, I want to listen to his weird psychedelic band he did before that. And I've seen the documentary and I knew who they were, but I never really delved in. And so like I started to put the record on, and like it was one of those like, oh, I'm gonna put this back and wait till I can actually like really sit there with like in the dark with like headphones on, or like sit there and really listen to this.
That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
Because I just knew that like I had put it on and I was like writing in a notebook and all that, and I went like, oh, hold on, like I'm gonna put on like something else right now because this is just like I need to focus on what this is, and
Yeah.
not even like so intently, but like I just want to be present with it. And like I definitely feel like with vinyl you get that presence as opposed to just like streaming. You can still get it that way, but it's just
Yeah.
I feel
it's
like
different though.
it is different.
I mean,
Yeah.
like you stream Queen and Adam Lambert tracks, but do you have the vinyl?
Yeah, I don't have the vinyl. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Will they
Good.
produce vinyl?
so many shots.
Dropping
taken
the
I'm
in
so
that.
sorry.
Are
You know it's out of love. You know it's out
No,
of love.
I love that you're busting my chops. This is great. Because he was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that on a podcast. That's too mean. And then you come in and you're like, what the fuck is this? And then like,
Yeah.
he's,
I know,
he's
right?
loving
See
this.
how much you rub off on me?
Yeah.
There we go.
Next episode,
God,
he's
I'm
going to be like,
so sorry.
No, girl, you got that co-host energy. We need this.
yeah.
You got it.
No, I think that
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're here to actually explain that process for people. And something
Yeah.
else I want to get from your perspective, because I am biased in this just from working on both sides of that like spectrum of like,
Who are you biased against?
well, no, just like I'm on the musician side of things, but I'm not
Yeah.
like only a musician. So like I understand what like engineers have to go through, and I understand that like they don't want to fucking hear like, oh, make it sound more blue, and you give them no other input.
Have you had
know?
this? Yeah.
Well, like that's
We
more on
gotta
the
find
mixing
out.
side of things, I feel, but like there is
Yeah.
that thing of like
True.
you're so lost in artist world to where it's like you can't like you don't necessarily know how to relay what you want properly. And like a really good engineer will have a good attitude about it and like kind of be able to translate that stuff. But I feel like on your end of things, you're dealing with not just what the artist wants, and then also the consideration of like the mixing person, because
Yeah.
like you are the last layer of polish that goes on it. So
Mhm.
where do you find the space to make creative choices, and like where's like certain things might be like a necessary choice? Like where do your choices come from? Is it like more about function than creativity, or like that's the part I'm most intrigued by?
Yeah. I think
Cool.
in general for me, I'm more focused on like function over fashion. Like I'm more like, what is going to make this sonically sound better? Not like, what is my fingerprint on this going to be? Because I'm like,
Right.
I'm not fucking, that's not my project. That's not my place to do that. So they didn't hire me to do a creative choice. Like they hired me to clean it up,
Right.
So, I mean, not everyone feels that way though. I'm sure that there are mastering engineers that are like, oh, well, we can tell that this person did it. Like this is their fingerprint.
Right.
But I personally don't believe that for myself, because I'm like, no, I'm the cleanup crew. I'm like here to make it better, not to be like, I'm going to boost 16K and you know that it's me,
Right.
Like,
right.
like
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm more like, I want to clean it up and make it sound good, not like I want it to sound good to me.
Yeah.
Like I want it to sound good for everybody.
Yeah. It really makes it cohesive. It takes it
Yeah.
to like, if it makes it like a full circle, going back to the full circle thing again.
Yeah.
Love those.
It is like the last part of that circle to where it's like, oh, this is finally a
triangle.
complete album.
Those are just
I mean, these are fingers. Let's be real. They're not
those are fingers.
They're
but
weird oblong fucking things.
This is less
Whatever this
circular
is.
than,
Yeah.
than the other thing was.
well, still, I would argue if it's a triangle too,
See,
then
you-
it's like band mixing and then mastering, and it's like you need that last
Stick to your
layer.
guns, brother. I believe
Yeah.
that.
I
No,
love it.
hey.
Jesse's like, fuck you,
He's
I'm
like,
standing
"Fuck
my
you, bro. My
ground.
circle's a
Yeah.
triangle.
You see
I'm
all
standing
that?
my ground.
You see all that dirt flying up from behind me? That's the hole that I'm in, and I'm just
Oh,
keep,
you're just
yeah.
gonna keep digging.
Yeah,
Kicking it
absolutely.
That's all
Yeah.
you, man. That's
But
all
I
you.
think like it's a like cohesion's a really good word, because like if we're doing a single or if it's an EP or an LP, like we have to make sure that it makes sense with like other stuff that artist has released, or if it's like an EP or an LP, that everything makes sense together. Like So not everything has different levels, or that like this song has more high frequency than this one does. Like you have to make sure that there's like balance across the board. And cohesion's a great word for that. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
But
I get 7 dumb questions I get to ask every podcast, and this will be, I think it was my second one officially.
Strawberry jam, not grape jam. That's what I have to say.
I like this because I don't even know what my question was now.
You're welcome. No, I'm just kidding.
Very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I did kind of forget my question slightly, but no, my question was like, so as a complete neophyte with engineering and stuff, here's what I keep asking because I want to figure out what it does for somebody who's writing songs, and I just, I want the songs to sound good, but I'm not precious about how stuff sounds at all. So in mastering, one of the things I would hope to achieve is like, it sounds good on a cell phone. It sounds good in the speakers in the car. Like, is that part of what you're doing there, right?
Very much so. I listen to, whenever I print a master, I'll listen to it in the room that I'm monitoring on, which I think the most important part of mastering is trusting your monitors and knowing what you're listening to instead of being like, I don't know, it sounds okay in here, and being like, what is actually coming through the monitors? Like, what does your sub feel like when it hits you? Like, what are your tweeters doing? Like, that's the most important thing, but I'll print it, listen to it in my office on my headphones, and I'll go listen to it in my car, and I'll make sure, and through my phone. Like, I listen to it a handful of times before I send it out so that I know that it makes sense wherever I'm listening to it.
Yep.
Cool.
So that's like a trust that you should have with your mastering house too, that they're like doing that and not just being like print, send, like good luck, figure it out.
Right. No, and that's a great point too. And I'm glad you brought that up. There is like a few key tests that like when you get mixes back, whether it's like audio mixes, like just like from just the mixing stage, and then even the mastering stage, even raws too. I'll do this, like listen to it in the car, listen to it on like regular like Apple earbuds, stuff that like just common stuff, and then listening to it on like a laptop, and just trying to see where like it's gonna sound different on all of them, but you kind of want a consistency. It's like you
don't want any degradation anywhere.
Yeah, like it shouldn't sound good in the car, but then it sounds like really weird in headphones,
Yeah.
Like, and weird meaning like maybe it's like too much bass in the headphones, but it's like perfect in the car. And it's like, okay, well maybe you could like do some minor tweaks to fix that. Or like maybe it's a little bit muddy, or like, muddy being like a certain frequency range. It's like you want to make sure there's consistency, even though it's going to sound different on all those things. So that's just a good tip for people that, are dealing with some frustration possibly with mixing or mastering, and things that you can do to kind of little test for yourself.
And I think too, like if you're a mix engineer and you send something to a mastering engineer and you ask for feedback, like we're always happy to do that. So it's never like I'll get a mix and then just be like, oh, there's something really wrong with this, but like I don't want to say anything. Like I think like having relationships with who you're working with is really important. So it's like if Jesse sent me a mix and I was like, holy shit, the kick is like 7 dB too loud, I can like call him and be like, hi, I love you so much. Please send me a version with it 7 dB down. Like I think like having relationships is a very important thing, so that if you're a mix engineer and you want feedback, you can take it without it being like criticism, like in a negative way. And like back and forth too, where like if for example you're a client that gets a mix or a master back, and you're like, oh, like I don't really like know, but like something's not right. Like you want to be able to like talk through it with that person, and instead of them being like it needs to be more blue, they can be like, oh no, like I just want it to be a little like vibier and like sad girl shit,
Yeah.
So having relationships is important.
Is that an important part of what you, when you find yourself mastering some sort of material, is that kind of the instruction or feedback that you're working with, is like people give you a little basic kind of idea like that, and you can work with that too? Because I think that's important for artists to know. They refuse to understand the basic technical terms you guys have used. I'm already losing them. I think they're wonderful. You guys, again, you're first responders. I salute you. But I think my point is that people really don't get that aspect, like how much mastering informs what they've created. Like, because it seems like you record it, you mix it, and now it's put together. And so I just thought it was important to highlight that, because My one experience with doing the record with the band 1,000 years ago was like we sent it to Capitol, and my buddy was like, "This is a good thing to do," and I was like, "Yeah, it makes sense. Capitol Records, whoop whoop." We got it back, and I was like, I didn't say I couldn't tell the difference, but I didn't really listen to the unmixed or unmastered tracks that much anyway.
Right,
But I
right.
really was like, is there a difference?
Yeah, right, right.
Yes,
I
I
wasn't honestly
promise.
sure.
Yeah.
But now,
I promise.
now I listen more intently than I did when I was 20, and I can tell you,
Right.
of course,
Yes.
there's a freaking
Well,
difference, guys
That's
and girls and
that
everyone.
that's a great point. I think not only, I think that's the same way. Like if you were to listen to like a recording of you did like of a band that you had in like middle school or high school when you like first started playing. Well, no, and stay with me.
Please
Stay
don't.
with me. No, when you listen to
This is
that,
blackmail.
like when you listen to that, and then you listen to like a band that you had in high school, and then you listen to like you performing with like your college ensemble versus like you playing like last week.
Right.
Like, there's
Consistently fucking awesome across the board. I know.
right.
Yeah.
Well, right. Always killing it from day one.
I was Satriani then, and
Right.
now I'm more Steve Vai now.
Right,
That's
right,
all.
right, right.
Only difference.
that
I hate myself.
you'll hear that
Sorry.
yeah, you'll hear that like the progress, right? You'll hear like, oh, I started
yeah.
I
Of
started
course.
here and ended here. It's the same with like developing your ear too, to where it's like
Do you hear it in recording projects you've done?
Oh
Do you
yeah.
hear
Oh
the
my
development
god.
of your mastering skills too?
Oh my god. Yeah, dude. It's
That's
fucking
cool.
wild. Like, and you know what fucking suck? Like the shitty part about my job, I can't enjoy things anymore. I like listen to things and critique them, and I'm like, oh, this like has a weird hump at 260. I don't want to listen to this anymore. And I'm like, why can't I just enjoy this shit?
Ooh.
Like, why do I have to like have my work brain on?
Well, see, now I'm gonna call you out because we were talking about memes, and you told me that you like those memes when like the bass just starts clicking and everything gets super loud, and now
Yo,
you're
I
talking
knew you
about
were gonna
oh,
fucking say that.
no, the little hump
The
at
clipping bass memes and vines make me laugh irrationally hard. Like that and things that get zoomed in on really far are like my two, like I'm like, I stand with it. I don't give a fuck. Like I think it's so funny. And I think because I work in audio, the clipping bass shit is funnier to me. Cause I'm like, wow, that's like real bad. Like you had to push hard for that to happen.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. No, sorry.
awesome.
You got in a dig about the Queen shirt. I had to at least.
No, that's fair.
I
I
had-
deserved it.
Just wait till the internet gets at you, bro.
Oh, I know. I can't wait.
I'll defend you.
I can't wait. But no, I would say that like, and I'm glad that you brought that up too. That like, I have other buddies that are engineers that like they've talked about that where they listen to like when they first started like mixing bands to like
Yeah.
where they're at now, and like it's the same thing as like playing where you hear like when you first started to now you're like, oh my god, like it's just such a difference.
Yeah. Like one of my really good friends, John, is a producer and a songwriter here in town. And when I like first started mastering years ago, he sent me this EP to master and it sounds good, but like he sent me a track last week and he called me and was like, holy fuck. And I was like, that's the reaction that I want. Like, that's why I do this job. And it's
Right.
just like listening to what I had done for him last week versus like 3 years ago. I was like, I'm on the up and up. Like I'm still going.
Yeah.
But I'm like way better than where I was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good to have those benchmarks that you can look back on.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, it's the same thing as even I would say an artist who's been doing it a long time that's not an engineer, they're gonna not only pick up terminology, and even if they don't, they're gonna develop their ear more to like sonically like improvements on stuff. At least in the sense of like if you're not like a hired gun kind of musician and you're trying to play for whoever, but you're just sticking to your music, you're going to have more of an idea of how to get the sound that you want, at least. You know, you're going to have more of that, like, you can at least kind of describe where it is, or you're going to have, like, specific examples of, like, I really like this person's sound, and I really like this, and this about these albums or songs or, you know, whatever it is. And so like I feel like just over time you can develop your ear the same way you would develop it to hear like harmonies or melody or any of those other things. Like it's all ear training, except it's, you know, not in a playing aspect, you know, it's just in a sonic
Just
aspect.
like deep listening, I guess. kinda
Yeah,
thing.
no, it is. It really is. And like
Neat.
that's like with me when I do gigs, like I don't necessarily need a monitor because I'm listening to the PA that's on the side and it's not facing me, but I can hear enough of it to where I can hear what's coming out of it, and I'm like,
Well, you're playing?
well, yeah, while a band's playing, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
you're not teching. You're playing?
yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Oh, that's my least favorite thing.
Yeah, well, no, like
Give me that monitor.
Yeah, well, some people be like, I can't hear me. I'm a little bit weird in
I
that,
have
like,
a sign.
yeah.
Fucker, I can't hear me.
Right, yeah. But, I can hear me singing out of the PA and hear the vocals enough at least to where I'm like, okay, I can hear what's going on. I can hear where this person has things set relatively enough. Just because I've been on a stage so much, like, hearing stuff side stage. Like, like you get done setting stuff up in a band sound checking. I can hear, like, when they make adjustments in the PA from the wings. And it's not ideal, but, like, when you're playing a fucking, dive bar or something, and, like, the PA's, like, here and everything's all muffly, it's like, I could survive that and not be like, I don't have a monitor. I can't hear me. It's like, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Make sure the singer's cool. I'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes me ask, it's funny you bring up a dive bar because I'm just like, everything that you do when you're playing, it's got to translate to recording in some way. I'm like, so does somebody send you like a rough mix and they're like, I want it to sound just like this? Like, what do you do? You must have experienced something like that.
Yeah, I think like in general, if people ever do kind of know what they want it to sound like, they'll send like a reference master and be like, oh, I want this to sound like Minor Threat, like make it sound like that. And I'm like, first of all, fuck yeah. Second of all, I will do that for you. Like, don't worry. Like, I think reference masters are a good way to do that, but also like, I don't like people giving us directions usually pretty helpful. So I know where to start instead of just being like, I'm going to do what I think is right. And then have them be like, we want it this other direction. And I'm like,
Yep.
Tell me what you need. And then I will do it.
That's the biggest thing I would say with like, as much as like, engineers are on the creative side of things and they are creative people. Musicians can kind of float in that weird arbitrary like, oh, maybe it could be this or this, but like when you're relaying it to like somebody that's trying to get you what you want, it's more like, yeah, tell me what you need is the biggest thing. I feel like when there's more vague ambiguity, then like I feel like it's more frustrating than freeing, in a lot of situations.
It's like trying to figure out what to eat for dinner and you're like, I'm hungry. And then it's like, okay, what do you want? And it's like noodles. And then it's like, what kind of noodles?
Yeah.
Like, help me.
Yeah, we talking Italy?
Let's just dry noodles out
yeah,
the bag.
are we
That's
talking
what I
ramen?
think.
Yeah.
Just dry ramen.
What are we
just
talking?
crunching it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just eat the
Yeah,
dry
if I say
ramen.
noodles, if I say like pasta, then we're going to cook that shit.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm just
I mean, you could just not cook it and just eat like rigatoni and see what happens. But like,
if you hold it in your mouth long enough, this I found, it eventually gets soft enough to chew.
Yeah.
True story.
wait, what?
Yeah.
Is this real?
Yeah, if you hold semolina pasta in your mouth long enough, it's like, there's like, I think I started chewing on pasta because I used to be a chef. And I was, what was that? When I was trying to quit smoking cigarettes a time ago in the before 4 times of youth, I would walk around chewing on a whatchamacallit, mostaccioli or a little piece of shit like that.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a little ciggy.
Yeah.
And then I get like, I hate
Well,
life.
See, I have
Just a piece of spaghetti hanging out of your mouth, and you're like, I feel right.
I feel
Yeah.
gangster.
I feel right.
Yeah, see, I have weird food things, but that was just because I was an only child, and like I just like you develop some weird preferences sometimes.
Wait, have we talked about this before?
Oh yeah, we've talked about this.
Okay, I was like, I remember talking about this.
You're both onlys, aren't
Yeah.
you?
No,
I was
I'm
gonna
the
say,
middle
yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm the only, and yeah, we talked about this in private. But
Yeah.
I've never talked, and with other friends, I've talked about this, but I've never talked about this with the world. That like, and I don't know, maybe this could be like episode 3 exclusive.
We're
some
talking.
hot take.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
Exclusivo.
So
A nugget of information.
yeah, so
hot nugs.
when I was a kid, that like those
Sorry.
those like frozen toaster pastries. So it'd be like either like
Pop-Tarts?
well, no, not Pop-Tarts, but like toaster strudel.
Yeah,
Or-
toaster strudel.
yeah,
Shout out,
or-
not a sponsor.
or, like-
Oh, wait. I remember this conversation now. Okay, sorry. Continue.
yeah.
I just got really excited.
Yeah. So or like the frozen like Eggos with like blueberries or like chocolate chip or the totally like completely chocolate waffle.
Waffles.
Yeah. Well, because it's hot and like I grew up in the desert that like there'd be times where it's like, there's no ice cream or like there's no frozen treat. So I'm like, well, I like chocolate and like let me try that. And so I would just take like the chocolate waffle out of the fridge and
Frozy waffle.
and just eat it. Yeah. Not the plain because I'm not a complete psycho, but like just
Chocolate chips make you less of a sociopath, but that's
yeah,
fine.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Chocolate chip scream. I'm fun. I'm almost normal.
I'm fun.
I'm good.
Yeah, so like I'd eat the frozen shit and like just it was kind of.
Was it always with a snapping?
Well, you kind of have to snap it.
I
you
guess
know,
so.
You're not gonna like suck on the frozen waffle. You gotta like
See,
bite,
that's what I would.
bite
That
a
was my
fucking
first
chunk
instinct.
off
Was like
it.
nom nom, like biscuit time, like when I was like teething, like.
Yeah, kind of. Except you just kind of like.
But no,
like
you're all.
Except
like,
you're an adult and not a baby.
Always. No,
Yeah.
sometimes I need somebody to swaddle me.
Well,
so.
yeah, I was gonna say this was
Frozen
like
waffle.
this was like mainly like single digit age into like I would say like like beginning.
Why
of
can't you
high
just say like
school.
the age you started doing it?
I can't
Like,
So
remember.
when your age was single digits
Yeah.
and double digits,
may have been 5, may have been 8,
Yeah,
may
no.
have been 9.
could have been 25. Who knows?
Yeah,
who's to say?
I'd
Yeah.
say like 7 or 8, like around there, up until like maybe like high school, and
Oh,
then
you stopped.
well, yeah, because like we didn't really like stock that stuff in the house much anymore. It was kind of
Your
like
parents figured out it was an issue.
yeah, it was an issue. Had to
Middle of the night.
lots of therapy,
frozen
lots of
waffles.
therapy sessions. Like why do you look like a prospector checking a coin? It's like
Yeah.
no, I'm just eating a frozen treat.
Just eating my waffles, mama.
yeah, exactly.
Jesse, I'm gonna send you like a Costco box sized of fucking chocolate chip waffles for Hanukkah.
Oh my God.
That is that is a mitzvah.
I forgot
Positively.
that. I forgot that we agreed to do that.
Yeah,
You got
Jesse and I are
Hanukkah?
gonna celebrate Hanukkah this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neither of us.
Neither of you are chosen, or both of you are chosen.
No,
You're not.
but we just thought it
No.
would be something that we could do just as not a goof, but just something we could do like I don't
Because
know.
Oh,
nothing
you know
else
that old
is
goof
happening in
Judaism.
the world right
You're
now.
like- right. It
Yeah,
just
that old
Not
prank.
as a goof,
that
but we
old
were like,
prank
that's
Hanukkah.
something to
no.
keep ourselves busy more than anything.
Well, and it was
Of
also
course.
it was also
I think it's lovely.
Yeah, it was also something that started as like I said that you threw it out as a joke, and I said if you throw that out as a joke, I'll fucking do it when you're least expecting it, just to prove a point of like you didn't think I would actually do that, like it was a goof, and then you're like oh like, and then it became like a challenge, and it's like oh now we're gonna do this.
I'm the same way. I'm like, tell
And
me I won't do it. See what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's gonna be
Just send
like
2 boxes of waffles.
yeah, but it's gonna be like trying to send like weird lame stuff. So like maybe one good one, and then like you know.
Like knit one sock.
Yeah, like
A pallet-sized box of Eggo waffles.
Yeah.
I would send the Mensch on the Bench, which is like Elf on the Shelf, but for Hanukkah.
I've seen that.
Not a
I've seen
sponsor.
that. Yeah.
That's
I'd buy one.
incredible and terrifying. Elf on a Shelf is so fucking scary. I hate that shit. I'm like, keep your weird dolls away from me.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
Yeah, I
Right.
think That's fair.
Oh man.
I don't know. I like scary dolls and babadooks and haunted houses and shit.
Man, we're getting
How
into
did get here?
How did we
no,
get here?
we're
We're
getting-
just trying to talk about food.
I'm so sorry.
no, we're getting into like a little bit of like who I really am.
Yeah,
you know,
we're cracking the top off because he tries to
Yeah.
stay real professional, and I'm always scratching. And now that we got you on, Raelynn, he's like,
Let
you know
out
what? I
the
just want to
weird."
bear it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So
This
I'll
is like every conversation that we have is just weird shit that I'm just like, what? How did that happen?
Well,
I don't know.
and that's the
Yeah.
goal too, because like you know the genesis of this was like trying to capture those moments when you're like hanging out after a gig or like with your music people, and like sometimes the conversation. You know, my favorite part about being a creative person is hanging out with other creative people and just like you know.
just snuggle in with creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We are so creative together.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It's the creative spoon is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, well, and this kind of leads me to one of the things I wanted to ask. So, like, with that environment, like working in a studio, since it doesn't have necessarily the crazy pace of, like, you know, musician life or, you know, that live thing, it has, like, I always think of it as being, like, a really chill environment. Like,
Yeah.
is that, yeah, like, can you describe what the environment is like, you know, where you work?
So at work, most of the time, it's just me, Pete, and then his assistant, Dan Bocciagalupi, who is one of my favorite humans that I've ever gotten to work with. He is a gem of a human. But so our other engineers, Piper Payne, will also work out of Nashville and is bringing all of her stuff from her Oakland studio to Nashville. And then we have Dave Gardner in our LA location. But most of the time at work, it's just me, Pete, and Dan. So it's like super chill, and we all just like kick it and drink coffee all day and like do work, and we all help each other out. Like it's not like I just do studio manager stuff, and then when I have projects, I do my own projects. It's like Dan is helping Pete cut something, and while Dan's doing that, I'm QCing one of Dan's projects, and then I can send it off. So that's one less thing that he has to do later. And we're kind of just like a a good circle of momentum of like making sure that everything gets done, but we still have a lot of fun. And we purposely make it a point that every day that we eat lunch, we like stop and either watch like Letterkenny, like an episode, or we'll watch like an episode of Seinfeld. Like we always say all the time, we're like, our fucking job isn't real. Like this is nuts.
Right.
Like how do we have this job? Like
Right.
I think that all the time where I'm like, I get to fucking go into work and work with someone that I've looked up to forever and like eat a fucking salad and watch Caddyshack. And I'm like, what is my life?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? But
That's
it's
super
super
cool.
chill. Like it's all about like loving your environment. And especially now with like everything in the world that is happening, like work for me is like, that's where I go to get away from all of the bullshit that's happening. Cause I'm like,
Yep.
I know as soon as I walk into work, it's like, cool, focus on this shit. And you're with two other people who also work their asses off. And like, we all appreciate each other, which I think just makes everything like, we all come to work to like get away from all the chaos. So,
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way when I've gotten to travel and kind of live the pirate's life, just
Yeah.
out and about. Yeah. It's, you can definitely kind of, I wouldn't say isolate yourself, but it definitely feels like an escape. It feels like,
yeah.
it feels like it's kind of the world, and then you're kind of like in a weird little bubble, like floating through it in a weird way.
Yeah.
So
And that's how I feel too with like, if a lot of the times if I have projects happening, I'll go into work on the weekends and do it. Like I went in this morning and was working on some stuff, but like being able to take my time and like sit there and like still be able to get away from everything. I'm like, yeah, it's a Saturday and I only usually work Monday through Friday, but like I still love going to like work on projects. So it never feels like I'm like, oh, I have to go into work on a Saturday. I'm like, hell yeah, I get to go into work and like work on some cool shit and like take my time and not feel rushed and not feel like an asshole because I'm taking up Dan's room when he could be doing work because I share Dan's room with him. But yeah,
yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. I could never figure out how to engineer. Now I want to be one. How about that? It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Just
like a
like
fun time.
do it. That's like,
Well,
you just gotta throw yourself into it and be like, I'm gonna just do this thing and I hope it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's time to try again. It's been about 15 years. I bought a FirePod. I bought a computer. I set it all up. There was Cubase. There was this thing called latency. And I had
This
classic
thing called latency.
Dave-style meltdown, and the computer got broken, and the FirePod got sold.
Oh, right.
So,
Damn.
yeah, and it is what it is. Water under the bridge and all that, But I feel like it is kind of cool to like really understand. Like for the longest time, I was just like, this is such a technicality what I'm doing, in that I've always felt very much like whether or not you record a record. My ignorant understanding used to be like, you're really just going to replicate, like it's all about the live situation anyway. Like a recorded context is just a supplement for the live. But I'm telling you, that's actually not the case at all. Now
no.
that I'm
Yeah.
writing, now that I have a real band and we're writing original songs in earnest,
Yeah.
I see that the experience of listening back to it, and it's like the best version of what we could have made.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I know how it sounded when I demoed it. That's really making that impact for me, that I'm like, all of you other stubborn guys who've been, playing live forever, it's like, think about the magic of recording.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Just think about it.
They're two.
And not even that like it has to be better. Like some of my favorite things listening to are like old Bad Brain stuff or like old Minor Threat stuff or like
Yeah.
old Fugazi stuff that just sounds sonically fucking horrible. But then like you watch shows and it's like fucking Ian MacKaye like throwing a kid off stage and like it's just like so cool. Like I'm like,
Right.
it doesn't even have to sound good. It's just like the like energy behind it and like watching people do something that they love and it's like, yeah, this recording kind of sucks ass, but like watching them do it's cool and like I still get to hear it. So,
Right.
Hells yeah.
Yeah.
Hells motherfucker yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, what was I going to ask? Oh, I was like, so we have to cover this. Third dumb question.
Ready.
But kind of pertinent because you are located in Nashville.
yes.
And apparently they do a lot of country music there. I don't care. I haven't heard. Doesn't matter. I just was curious because we're talking to you. Is there a lot of that in the schedule that you guys are mastering and stuff like that? A lot of the projects
Yes.
country? Yeah.
A lot of it's country stuff, which is cool. Like back to my roots, like growing up in like the hardcore scene, like I didn't listen to country music. I was like, fuck that shit. I don't care about that. That's terrible. And also like I grew up in a super small town that was like kids that drove their tractors to school and like parked in their shitty fucking trucks in the parking lot and would rev their engines. And I was like, I don't give a fuck about this. Bye. And this is very much who I am. Sorry. But like getting here and getting to work with Pete specifically, who does like Chris Stapleton, Tyler Childers, like Sturgill, like big country shit. I was like, cool. Like I can appreciate this now being on like the management side of things and on like still being in the audio side. It's like, I can appreciate things now. Like, even if I'm like, oh, this isn't my cup of tea normally, like I can listen to it for what it is and be like, this fucking rules. Like we just did the new record that Tyler Childers put out, Long Violent History, which is like 8 fiddle songs. And then the last one has vocals.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you asked me 5 years ago if I would want to listen to a fiddle record, I would have been like, no. But now I'm like, hell yeah. Like it's you know how much work is going into it, so you can kind of separate your own bias from things. And I'm trying to not like go into things and be like, oh, I know I'm not gonna like this. This is terrible. I'm like, nah, be open to shit. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Like go into everything without a bias and like try everything once before putting a thought on how you feel about it.
Yeah. That's a great attitude to have, not just as a musician, but as an engineer, because you know, I had to deal with the same stuff with mixing bands, you know, especially like starting off doing like punk and like Moose Lodge, you know, level club shows. And it's like,
Moose.
you had, there was all sorts of bands that like I had never heard before, like, you know, and I wasn't really that into punk. Like I was into a few bands, but not like the whole broad spectrum of like what punk and hardcore was. And I had like a deep appreciation for it after like having to do that. And like especially, you know, when you get to work with like, you know, really professional bands, like where that would come across, like UK Subs came through town and like Voodoo Glow Skulls and bands like that. Yeah, like all those bands, like, oh, their gear sounds great. Yeah. They're super tight and like they put on a great show. Yeah, and it already sounds good before I have to do anything. And so it was like, and it's the same way working with artists of that level too. It's like you hear the quality of stuff that's coming through and you're like, whether you like country or not, you can appreciate it at least from like just a musician standpoint, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, being open to stuff to where you respect stuff, you know, even if it's not your personal cup of tea, you can still appreciate stuff for what it is and how good it is.
Especially like with work too, and that being my job, I kind of have to lose my bias of like, oh, I don't like country music, so I'm not going to work on it. Because I'm just like, that's fucking stupid. Like, I'm going to be like, no, this person like really cares about this thing and they want it to sound good. Like, of course I want to work on it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You freaking yes man.
What?
Just because she's smart and beautiful and she does stuff, you're going to yes her all to death.
Well, hey, you know, it's...
Whoa, I hit a nerve.
Well, no, it's...
Jesse's like...
I like my yeses.
Don't look at me!
I retract my statement.
Hey, unless it's bass clipping memes, then you know we're like we agree on a lot. You know, it's
fair enough.
It's a genuine yes.
I know, yeah. You're genuine.
I'm like,
person.
Jesse knows how truly fucking weird my brain is, so I'm like, he's still talking to me. He thinks I'm all right. That's fine.
Well, I could say the same thing back at you. So you know, it's you know, doofus power, like you said.
Doofus power.
One last question, because we gotta wrap things up. I really think, like, as an artist, it's really easy to see how, like, you know, you have these cumulative... hold on. Take two.
Snap.
You have these cumulative...
Roll sound speed.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
You have these cumulative experiences that, like, build up through your whole life, and I feel like that really translates into your music. Like, it's really easy to hear, like, you know, what you grew up listening to, like, you know, where you could have gone to school, like... where you could have lived. Like, it's really easy to kind of hear how that just gets absorbed into your playing style.
Yeah.
Just speaking as, you know, from an engineering perspective, like, do you feel like that, you know, all the stuff that we were talking about with going to school and being involved in a cappella and all these life experiences, like, do you think that translates into your work and how that comes across?
Yes and no. Like, I think more than anything, it's my mindset and not so much my skill set. Like, one of the reasons that I love working for Pete so much is like he grew up in the Colorado and LA hardcore scenes. Like he's a fucking hardcore kid. So it's like him and I both have that like DIY mentality where it's like, I didn't know until I moved to Nashville that like people like co-write and shit here and they write music for other people. Like I grew up in a scene that was like, you write your own shit, you track it yourself, and then you fucking get your shit in a van and go on tour. Like, I didn't know that co-writing was a thing. And then when I kind of got here, I was like, fuck that shit. I was like, people don't write their own music. This is bullshit. And then I was like, no, okay, that's like rude. Like, don't have that mentality. Like, people make a living off of it, and like, some people are just really fucking good songwriters, and like, power to you. I'm like, that's your job. Like, good on you for being able to do like what you want all the time. But I think more than anything, like, me having that mindset has been helpful along the way, and not so much like my music experiences, if that makes any sense. Like, acapella is helpful because it, in a weird way, got me to where I am, and like, having that theory part of all of that's been helpful. But I think more than anything, it's just me like working at it and like doing it a lot, because I'm a very like, I have to be doing something to learn how to do it. A kinesthetic learner, I think it's called. I can't
Spell
like
it.
Is it kinesthetic? Or
Kinesthetic. You got it now.
There
Now
you
you don't
go.
have to spell it.
Cool.
Good save. Good save.
But yeah, I'm like, I have to like physically be doing things for my brain to like understand them and remember how to do it, like muscle memory. So I think more than anything, it's just that.
That rings true for me. I was like, that's like what all of us are. I don't know a single person in the music field that's not like, I kind of see what you're doing, but let me try it.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I read this in the Bobcat's Art of Mastering book. Like, now I know it forever. I'm like, I read that book, took notes, and then fucking all of it went away. I was like, but if you put me in front of an EQ, I can be like, do, and then figure it out.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. No, and I think that it really shows that like that's a great attitude to have, just because, you know, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily even grow out of that. They're like, we all come from that place to a certain extent. Like, I grew up being a metal kid, and didn't listen to like jazz or like a whole bunch of other stuff. It was like classic rock and metal, and I grew up on like blues and Motown, so there was some of that in there too. But like, especially once I hit college, it was like I had to learn all these songs for different ensemble classes, and I just started listening to a bunch of stuff, and it just like, just having that moment to where you like can appreciate and like just accept all these different things that are out there is just so important, and it really just translates into life. I think you kind of look at like, at least for me, I look at food the same way now, and I look at like just all sorts of things.
Frozen
it's like
waffle man.
Yeah, frozen waffle man.
I was like, oh, don't say anything. But no, like, I think that's totally right. Like, that was one of the biggest things that when I was working with Tommy, he was like, have you ever listened to like this? And I'd be like, no. And he'd be like, stop what you're doing and go listen to it right now. Like, he always encouraged me to listen to a bunch of stuff so that I had kind of a wider scope on things. And I will say that the Casey Musgraves record, Golden Hour, is like one of my favorites. And I'm like, I never would have been like, oh, I love like pop country, but goddamn, that record is fucking awesome. I don't give a shit what anyone says. I love that record. And that one, when I was like, when quarantine was happening, I was like, every day I'm going to listen to a record with like my Audio Technica, like M40Xs, and I'm just going to fucking chill out and close my eyes and like listen to shit. And that was like the one that stuck out for me that I listened to front to back, like with my headphones and my eyes closed. And I'm like, this just sounds really good and it's catchy as fuck. I was like, I am here for this. And I never would have expected I would have enjoyed something like that.
That was a surprise reveal, I think. Yeah, that's cool.
I love Casey Musgraves.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we got to wrap up. But thank you so much for being a part of this initial journey of this podcast and being one of the first guests. And one of the first people I asked.
And I'm saying it right now, first return guest.
Oh, absolutely.
I banged the gavel.
shit!
I never get to bang the gavel. That's the first time I did that.
Oh, you did today.
Yeah.
Real quick, because I want people to be able to catch up with what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you want to plug your socials and different records that you've mastered, so people can check out your work, that'd be great.
Yes. So my Instagram is my own personal one. It's Raelynn_J, Jae. I also have RaelynnJanicke.com. And then on the Infrasonic Sound website, I have a little engineer page with my discography. And I'm trying to think of stuff that I've worked on recently. I just did a song for Tamara Edwards called Love that's out. I did the Kenny George Band EP that came out recently.
Cool.
Edwin Boulevard just put out a new song that is really awesome as well. I'm doing a bunch of like cool little projects, and a bunch of stuff's coming out soon. So keeping up on our Infrasonic page is the best way to see what I'm doing if anyone cares.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
I'm like, you'll get calls. You'll get calls. People will need
Yeah.
records
Oh, yeah.
mastered.
I'll throw this out there right now. And
Especially if you've heard the Rogue
Yeah.
EP, the Wasted Heart EP, which I just like to say, fan-fucking-tastic.
It's wonderful.
So
It's so
good.
good.
oh,
I
thank you.
I can't stop telling you this guy. I was there at the first show, so
You were.
I'm gonna just
You
bring
were.
that up every
Aw.
time.
Yeah.
That's how much I love this.
You
band.
were, and you genuinely liked it, and you had genuine great positive feedback. I really liked
It's
this.
genuinely
you
good
had like a
songs.
list of like
Aw.
specific shit that you're like, I really like this, and this, and I'm like, all right.
I
Yeah.
took notes the whole
Yeah.
time. I loved at 30 seconds when you looked at me and then looked away.
I was
Kinda.
like, that
Yeah,
modulation
Kinda. Yeah, no.
to the relative 4/4 was simply masterful, Jesse.
Thank you,
Love
sir.
it.
Oh,
Well,
good times.
Good times. Thank you so much. Please, if you're looking to get a record mastered, check out Infrasonic. They're very DIY friendly, and they care. They
They'll
care
make you
about
sound good.
Yeah, they make you sound good regardless of
How shit
you
you sound at first.
Yeah.
That's a
can
tagline.
always-
That's a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We care about our shit. And also, like, we do really care. Like, it's
They
like,
do.
it's true.
They do.
And like,
Disclaimer.
I love talking on the phone, so people can always call us too.
Cool.
Oh wow. Okay, there you go.
All right.
This has been another episode of Sonic Any Counts. Oh.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate you coming on, Ray.
Thanks so much, Raelynn.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.
That was fine, said the old popcorn tycoon.
Yes. Okay. So
Whatever happened to that? See, let's start the outro. So I'm totally on board. I'm totally on board with the rebranding situation in the food aisles. But what happened? What the hell? Now I'm mixed race. Everybody, calm the fuck down. Now, what happened to Orville Redenbacher? Is he still on the thing? I never go to. Do I miss it in the aisle? Why don't I see Orville Redenbacher on the thing?
I don't know. I don't really fuck with Orville Redenbacher, so I don't really pay attention
What
to it.
popcorn do you buy?
I buy that shit that you get at like Trader Joe's. It's got like white cheddar on it or like different flavorings
You
and stuff.
buy it pre-popped then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, it's fine if, you living a life that lacks initiative. Sure, that's going to...
With popcorn,
I take all of this back.
Yeah, with popcorn, I so lack the initiative. I like
You're not alone, I think.
no, and like I don't know, like that bag shit that you stick in the microwave. It's all right. It's not as good as the shit that's already popped in the bag. It's like that shit's good.
There's secrets to making microwave popcorn amazing. But what I learned after a while is, like, if you're going to do all these little tricks to make it good and, like, pop evenly and stuff, you might as well just do it in a pan or a popper or get it out of a bag.
Yeah, no, it's and yeah, there's certain brands that it's like they got a certain flavor or whatever that it's like.
It's like, why heat up waffles? It's like, well, you can lick them like a paleta. Well, like,
Yeah.
why, it totally makes sense.
No, why heat up waffles? That's what I shared that with the world today, and I hope the idea catches on, or I hope more people out there, maybe there's a subreddit out there that someone will send me a link to now and go, hey, like,
Don't send it to me.
other people do this too. It's okay. In fact, a little
Yeah.
teaser. One of the guests that we just booked, that we have not announced or talked about yet,
And we won't now.
Yeah,
Shut up, audience.
has done the same thing.
What do you mean?
Well, it did that when they were a kid. It came up because I was over at their house, and I was talking to them about like music stuff, and they were just grabbed a waffle out of the fridge and they started eating it. And then I went, "Wait, did you just pull that out of the freezer and just start chomping on it?" He's like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Dude,
Brother.
yeah, no, yeah." It was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know anybody else did that." He was like, and the same thing. He was like, "Oh yeah, growing up, like it was just something I did as a kid." And I'm like,
Yeah. He's like, growing up, my parents weren't around. Sorry. That's...
"Well, anyway."
Why is that so funny?
Well,
Anyway. Guys, I kid around a lot, but if you meet me, you'll realize that I'm this endless reserve of empathy, so calm down. I'm doing it to keep it, light and fluffy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing here.
This
is an outro.
That's your expertise, light and fluffy.
Light and fluffy, mellow and easy.
So, yeah, mellow and easy. So, just real quick to recap, check out Infrasonic Mastering online. They have an Instagram page, they have a website, and you can check out all the cool projects they've done. As Raelynn said, check out her page and check out some of the music that she's done. And yeah, if you're looking to get your record mastered, they are nice, friendly folks, and they would love to work on your stuff. So don't be afraid to reach out and see what happens.
If you watch this episode and you're a person with a record that you want to get mixed and mastered, and you somehow didn't want Raelynn to do it, please contact me so I can talk to you, so I can understand what's going on. Who hurt you?
What's the deal?
What is the deal with not wanting the best?
Right.
You deserve the best.
And real quick,
and we only have the best. That was my other point.
That's right.
Semi-gavel.
Sorry. I have to give a shout out to Amped Music, who is helping to bring this podcast to you. Davey is an instructor at Amped and does lessons online and through Zoom and Skype and whatever other electronic means in this crazy pandemic time. And they're helping to get this show off the ground, and it'll be out on a podcast platform called The Showcase, and eventually that will be a venue space that we will be in. And there's lots of
one
exciting...
of a kind, too, if I may interject. It's going to be... You guys are going to dig it. It's going to be hooray.
It's awesome, so we thank Amped and The Showcase for helping us out with this podcast. We appreciate it. So, Amp family. So,
Showcase.
And thank you very much for tuning into another council meeting of the week.
Love you.
And we will be back next week with more hijinks and conversation and frozen eating.
Waffles, in-store, all that, in stock, whatever.
All right.
Thank you, guys. We love you. Goodbye. We don't do that at the end, too?
Were we?
Don't we adjourn it? I feel safe now.
Sonic City Council was created by Jesse Davidson and Davey Sipes and engineered by Max Taylor at Desert Sound Studio in Palmdale, California. Thank you to Disaster Cabinet for the outro music. Intro music written by Max Taylor. Sonic City Council is produced in association with Amped Music Academy and the Showcase Venue. For more information, visit theshowcasevenue.com.